Hi puppies! So, as most likely many others of you, I also watched the new Sims 4 Cottage Living trailer when it came out some weeks ago. And oh my god, it was so good! I was swooped up by the idea of llamas, making jam and living the simple life far, far away when I saw this. A vintage cottagecore apron. So imagine this. I sat on my sofa one morning in my PJ watching the trailer and I told myself this. I make cooking videos on YouTube. I do not have an apron, but I want one. I can 100% wear it and I will look cute and wholesome. I need to make a Sims 4 Cottage Living apron. And to be honest, I thought this would fit perfectly into what I want this YouTube channel to be. I want this to be a cozy place where I could do everything gaming but gaming, and making a gaming inspired apron I think would fit perfectly in. See who wanted to join us. So, since the trailer came out, these little paws here has been working full time. I started my research by going online to see if I can find any information on what would be included of clothing in the upcoming pack. Sadly, I could not find any media kits or anything like that, but EA actually sent me an olive branch in the end. They did let some YouTubers pre-play the game as part of the EA Game Changer, something that meant that I could scour through their content to see if somebody used the apron. And luckily there was YouTubers like Plumbella that chose to use the apron in their gameplay, which meant that I could get a full look around of the apron in action. This is what I came up with the limited information I had before the game was properly released. The Sims 4 Cottage Living apron seems to be inspired by some sort of pinafore vintage Victorian apron that is white and has two parts. The full skirt and the bib, aka the part that is in front of your chest. The bib is embroidered in the front with some flowers, and it has 4 buttons in the front that I have no idea why is there, because it's not like you're going to open an apron in the front anyway, so I do think that they are there because of purely decoration. The bib is also connected to the waistband by straps that have ruffles on the side, and it seems like they are crisscrossing over the back. So with all this in the box, it seems like it's time for me to start sewing. I just realized though there is one little problem. I do not know how to sew. That is not me saying that I have never sewn in my life. I actually did learn how to sew at school. Yes, I am old, I'm from the countryside, we did learn how to sew in school, but I have actually never sewn since then, except making once a pillowcase, but I ended up making it too small for the pillow, so it didn't fit anyways. So let's just say we're off to a good start. But there is no time like today to learn a new skill, so I ended up on YouTube to try and see if I could find anybody with more knowledge than me that could help a noob out. And I ended up finding all of these YouTubes as you see here, these wonderful, amazing people that has taken time out of their day to learn others how to sew. It is time for me to get myself a sewing machine, some fabric, and whatever else you need to make an apron. So yeah, let's go. It is now the next day and I have been away trying to figure out everything I need for this project so I can make this beautiful apron. I went away to a store called Stuff and Steel where I got myself this beautiful cotton here. Actually really amazed me that they helped me so much to get everything I needed, because I had no clue where to start. And I am really glad that the lady at the store learned me that I had to sew the edge, because as you can see, the edge now is quite frail, I don't know. The fabric is starting to like sort of go to pieces, because she said this would happen to cotton if you just washed it. I would most likely end up with holes in it and stuff like that. So this small line here, not so pretty made, but at least it helped me not losing all of my fabric while washing it. When it comes to sewing machines, I am actually lucky enough to borrow a sewing machine from my beautiful mom that is so nice and have actually helped me a lot already. After watching all of the YouTube videos and talking to my mom that actually know how to sew, I figured out that I'm going to do it a bit different than what I've seen on the YouTubes. My plan is that I am going to make the skirt part today, and I'm going to attach it to the waistband, so it sort of will end up to have sort of an apron I can use, but without the bib part. Another day I will start making the bib, and then in the end I will connect them both together in a way my mom told me how to do it. I'm not sure if it is the right way to do it, but to be honest, I am trusting her. She has been sewing for so many years, so we're just going to try. Do keep in mind, I do not know what I'm doing. This is all, I am just trying as I go. I don't know if this is going to turn out any well, but we will try. I will do my best, and hopefully, if we fail, I can laugh with you guys. Cry a bit first, then laugh. Hopefully. With all my equipment required and the hope that I would not burn down the house, I started with the pressing of all my fabric. And let us not talk about how this is looking like a commercial for the iron, but the pressing and the cutting of the edges was necessarily after I had washed and crumpled the fabric. And after hours of monotonous work, the sun was setting and Luna had given me up as a bad cuddle job. I'm now done with both pressing the fabric and also trimming the edges, and I do think it's time for us to figure out how much fabric we need for each of the pattern pieces. And after watching 2 of the YouTube videos quite a lot of times, I do think I have figured out how I want to do this. And what we are going to do is that I am going to cut out the piece that I need for the skirt, and then I'm going to cut out the piece that I need for the bottom edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ruffle the bottom edge that is going upward to the skirt, and then I'm going to ruffle the skirt where it's going to connect with the waistband. So it is time for me to lay the fabric down, mark out where I need to cut, and start to slowly cutting the fabric out. I started with laying out and weighing down the fabric, ready for measuring and cutting, though Luna had other ideas. Hi. I did ask her to go away, but as everybody with a fluff knows, a fluff in action will stay in action. But after some play fighting, it was time to continue with the measuring. And to be honest, I have no idea how people get straight lines with such a long fabric. My saving grace ended up being the use of a meter stick for the long ends. Though this might still be a noob solution, who knows? I don't. After measuring at least 15 times, I drew out the skirt part and the bottom cape. And after some cuddle with Luna, I started to cut the fabric, giving it the most satisfying ASMR. And with all the fabric cut out, it was time to start with the scariest part of this project, the sewing. As said earlier, I got to borrow my mom's Husqvarna Viking sewing machine, and oh my god, look at this beauty! And with some fiddling around with the settings, it's alive! And I could start with the zigzagging of all the edges to make sure that it would not start fraying again while working with the fabric. Then it was time to press all the edges and pin them down, and oh boy did that take some time when you work with long squares of fabric. In other words, it was the next day before I started to sew the edges to make some good hems. And I have to say, I think sewing is one of the hobbies that gives the most satisfying background sounds. And after some good old fighting with the sewing machine, I ended up going from these fray edges to these crisp hems. But that was not the end of the sewing. It was time to gather the parts of the cape that would connect with the skirt. Gathering will give the effect of a more voluminous skirt and cape. It is done by sewing two lines close together and then pulling the threads to gather the fabric. And when this rather scary part was done, it was time for me to sew it all together, completing the first part of the skirt. It is now some days later, and I have been sewing away like the sim god I am, and this is how far I have come. So this is the skirt, and we now have the cape. Look at this! I am so proud. I have tried so many new things like double hemming this, and yeah, it actually turns out to look really good. It might be a bit short compared to the picture, but to be honest, it is a first try and I'm just like, I'm just going to keep it. So I have put in some threads in here, as you can see, to do the gathering for the skirt on top. So that is what I'm going to do today. But first I need to start cutting out some waistband. I have already cut out one waistband, but I do think it is a bit too small, as it doesn't go like properly behind my back. And what I'm afraid about is the fact that it's supposed to be buttons on the back. So I feel like it needs to almost be closed so I can have those buttons on the back, so that when I have the straps going upwards, they can align in with the back piece, either if I'm just going to have them as decorating buttons or if I'm actually going to have like usable buttons, I don't know, but I still feel like it's need to sort of go a bit more around my body. The problem is that all of the patterns I'm looking at is made for smaller women than what I am, so I need to have at least this more centimeters on each on one of the sides, I do think, so that it properly forms after my body and how I am shaped. So let me show you what I mean, and then we can start cutting out some more waistbands. So I'm now done with the skirt part, and here it is. I am so proud. So this is the skirt that goes around me, and it's going to be the skirt portion of our apron. It looks actually really good on me. I'm glad we put on some extra centimeters on each side of the skirt. I do think it wouldn't be as nice looking on my body if we didn't do that, though it is a bit less scattering than what I wished for. But when I look back to the apron we're going for, I do think that apron don't have that many gathers, so it actually fits. There is one problem though. I did sew a bit wrong with the waistband, so you can see some of the ruffling. I might be able to fix it, but I'm actually not sure if I'm going to fix it. It might just be torn on like a pretty rose, and it's not that bad. You can't actually see it that good if you don't know where it is. So I don't think I'm going to do anything with it. As long as it seems to be keeping the fabric, I am okay with it. And I do think we're going to just, yeah, keep on trying with it. The next part I have to do now is to make the bib and the straps, and then in the end I am going to mash it all together with a waistband and of course the straps that is going to tie it around my waist.
And then it was off to the drawing board again, starting with drawing and cutting both the bib and the million strips I needed for both the straps that goes over the back, the ruffles and the ties that tie the skirt together. This was also the first time the project gave me a serious headache while trying to figure out how to sew it all together. I do not know what sorcery I needed to acquire to assemble this bib, but it worked out somehow in the end. I also had my first proper little mishap, but that was fixed with a quick rip and tear before I sew it all together again.
I have finally done the bib. Ta-da! Look at it! This is how a lot of the recipes says I am. Is it called a recipe when you sew? I'm not baking an apron, I'm making it. Who cares? Recipes, patterns, who cares? But they stop at this bib here, or front piece if you want to. I'm actually really proud of this. But as you can see on the picture at the sim apron, they actually have some ruffles on the side here. So today's challenge is to make the ruffles, which we're going to make by having these, which is a bit longer, and then ruffle them up and sew them on the side. And then I need to make the tie that goes behind the skirt to tie like the skirt together, and then sew everything together. So hopefully, I'm hoping that this will be the last day of anything that has to do with making the skirt itself, so that next time I see you guys, I would have started on the details, which is buttons and embroidery. So let's start today.
So it was ruffle time. Though I did encounter some small problems. That was the ruffles on the side of the bib did not stop on a straight line, but sort of curved upwards. First I tried to make this by using a possum cup with a curved line, but I could not figure out how to hem it correctly if the line was not straight, so I ended up just making a straight diagonal cut, and it seemed to do the job okay. Since the Sims character have buttons down the front, I decided to make 2 rows of stitches, just to give the bib a bit more of a look, as if the buttons actually have any function. And after fighting with the sewing machine, the bib was finally done. I was eager to be done with the apron now, so I worked throughout the night to assemble it all up. And again, I was praying that I would learn some kind of new magic, because this was hard on the few of my poor brain cells that were left at 2 AM. And I think my prayers were answered, because look at this! Now I was only missing the details of the embroidering and the buttons in the front and back. This itself took some weeks to complete, but 1 eternity later, and this is the result. Ta-da! I can now proudly show you my first ever sewing project, my very own Sims 4 cottagecore vintage apron. I am so proud. I actually started crying when I saw myself in it the first time. And yes, of course, there are some mistakes here and there, but maybe because I made it myself, I really do not care so much about it. And to be honest, it's quite similar looking to the real deal, only maybe the buttons on the back, where I decided to go for the same buttons as in the front, as I prefer wood looking buttons over flower designs. But now the question may stand, will I actually use this apron? And the answer is yes. This apron makes me feel like a cute little puppy. Also, I stream on Twitch 3 times a week, and the apron will come good use both when I play Sims and when I do my baking streams. And hey, if you like this chaos, make sure to paw that like and subscribe button, and I will be back next time with more of everything gaming but gaming. And until next time, wherever you are around the globe, when the time comes, may you have a good night, sleep tight, and do not let the bedbugs bite. See you next time, bye bye!